Morning. This is FIDE Senior Trainer and International Master Sekhar Sahu welcomes you on behalf of Sports Authority of Gujarat and Gujarat State President to this intermediate training session. Did you know most travel websites charge rupees? Hello Subankar, how are you? So today I am going to discuss about a topic, one of the most important topic in middle game and end game, even at the opening stage. I mean, the player must know about initiative, when to take. Now, in olden days, earlier they used to think that white has only chance, better chance, and black is says to play for equality. But ever since Fisher appeared in the scene, he changed the equation. Fisher said a turning point in his career came when he came to know that black can also play for a win. That means it was Fisher who knew when and how to grab initiative. Of course, earlier grandmasters were very strong, but I'm just giving an example. Now, in any top class matches, any from beginning till from Morpheus time till today, a player cannot win without taking initiative against the weak points. The action can be initiated against a weak king position, a weak pawn, or a weak open line, or a particular badly placed piece or a pawn. So we'll discuss a very important topic and the feel for initiative. It is impossible for a coach to explain to a student when to take the initiative. A football coach cannot say, now is the time to strike the goal. It is a player will decide. So you have to see the position and judge and grab the initiative. For example, I have selected some 11 games of former world champions and classical winners today, and I will give supplementary games about the modern development of winning theory in those lines. So our topic is initiative, and this will I'm sure this will help. So I'm going to take many lectures on initiative, and it can be any number of lectures. Now, so Spassky decided to play this Queen's Gambit accepted white is little better after knight f3 or e4 or e3. The point is, after e3, white will give an additional choice to black play e5. So here, knight f3 or e4, which is sharp. So he decided to play knight f3, not allowing e5. Black has a choice now to hang on to the pawn. Black can play pawn to c6 to meet e4 with b5. White is little better because his development is so much that he can open the game after castle b3 and pawn break and lot of open lines. So it is not desirable to play passively to hang on to save the pawn and give initiative to white. Knight f3, knight f6. Here, of course, b5 is not good. After b5, a4, c6, pawn into pawn, and b3. Now, that is not good. After a4, c6 is obligated. And now, pawn into and white has the initiative. Not advisable. For example, if I take, no, take, array, pawn into pawn, pawn into pawn, and now b4. The cross pawns will not move forward. White central superiority is definitely giving better chances. So this is not desirable, no development, and also bad center. So here Boris went for e6. This is the most active line. Pressure on the center. Well, I will discuss about the opening after this. For example, here black is preparing b5, and if you white plays a4, knight c6 can create trouble. As in the game Dulugi versus Samkovic versus Dulugi, or Hayatson versus Dulugi. I'll show those two games. So a4 will create a hole on the b4 square and give counterplay to black. This is not advisable. But way back in this game was played 1971. It was not so much analyzed. Now white has got the better game. Black has played mechanically and not trying to exploit the b4 square. Now white finds a way. So I would ask the reader, think for some time how to grab the initiative. I told you a coach cannot tell or a book cannot explain to you. It is you, because initiative is in your mind, back of the mind. You have a lot of diagrams, tactics, strategy, some games, model games. So out of that you get the idea. Now this particular position, white can grab the initiative. How should white grab the initiative? You have to notice that the guard of the black's castle position knight has come out. Queen e4 and bd3. After queen e4, bd3, white will have 5 pieces in attack against the king. So the square in front of the weak pawn is important. Fight. Good move, queen e4. Now knight and knight, definitely white will have a big edge. And knight f6 back, he will play queen to g3. And if you discover attack, queen h4 and queen e3. Knight f6, queen h4, and then the queen is transferred to the king side. Knight b4. I think Pasky had to regret after, later on for this unfortunate decision. Now it is very difficult. Position has become extremely difficult. You cannot dislodge that knight without compromising the king side. Now at least now the problem is he could have played earlier. Okay, we'll discuss this opening later on. First, let us see. The idea is to play some b6 move and get rid of the tactics. Naturally. Now if you play nd5, again queen g3 will come. The threat is bishop h6. They have become very passive. Now black pieces are uncoordinated. Of course, there is no immediate victory in the side, but passive position. Great Bent Larson said, the seeds of defeat lies in passive position. Now Rook 8 is completely cut off from the game. Rook A7 and Knight on E8 is passive. The position, there is no coordination. Initiative. Grab. The point is now the bishop is attacked. Now the h6 bishop is attacked. Grasp the initiative. There is no time to play pawn into bishop, because after pawn into e6, knight f7 is just crossing. Now pawn into f6 is ruled out. So I tell you this, a player should feel about it. Sometimes a player do with accurate calculation, and sometimes player do with instinct. It's just an instinct. So black pieces are fully centralized. The uncoordinated pieces, sorry, white pieces are fully centralized. The uncoordinated pieces of black has to be punished. Right move at right time. Excellent. I don't think I don't think there is any choice. I don't think any choice because queen has to move somewhere to A8. He cannot stay in the B file. I mean C file or D file, and queen B8 is ruled out. Knight check and winning queen. So queen A8 is a miserable square. So pawn into pawn. Now white will get back the material with decisive advantage. The simple threat is pawn A5. Excellent. Now he has met the threat of A5, but what about he cannot bring a support to the B6 point. B6 point it is not possible. Now it is the D5 pawn also will fall. I think D5 pawn will fall now. Already three attacks and the position is just lifeless, one-sided. Of course, there are other ways to play, but this is the easiest way. Exchange more pieces. Now it is hopeless position. Or now he can return the exchange, but the D pawn will collect a full piece because back rank is not cleared yet. There is no time for knight D6, rook into pawn, and winning. So clearing back rank, but this is too late. Now still knight D6, rook into pawn, knight B7, rook B4 wins material. Okay. Now I will take you to the analysis of the opening. How to play. The evolution of opening has come only by seeing the classical games and master chess. So there has been a lot of improvement over the years with the help of engine, with the help of data, with the help of trainers. So let us see how black could have done better instead of playing this line at this line E6, this one. How to handle this position? Castle A6. Here I have got only one game. That is, oh, I have got two games. Okay, let us see. First, Hired Sun versus Blue. Now the drawback of the move, Knight C6. So waiting. Now he is waiting that pawn into pawn, bishop will come directly because Rook D1 will be coming soon. We need to vacate the square like Petrosian game, so he goes away in advance. Now we have the similar pawn structure, but the knight is ready to go to D5 at right time. Now here Petrosian, I mean Spassky made the decisive mistake. Queen D8 was there, knight D5, knight at D5, and he got initiative. But now D5 is not possible. How many we have got? We have got already three, and the fourth one, Rook D8 is coming. Not staying against the Rook. If if he will not play Rook C1, suppose Rook F to D1, then Black can play simply pawn B6 with the idea Bishop B6. If Rook F D1, pawn B6. Now b6. Okay, there is you have to always watch when knight into f7 can come any moment, but not no problem here. No problem. Now there is the e7 is well protected, so black has time. Now what black wants to do is bishop to d5 and neutralize, but the knight is watching the square. The right way to neutralize is bishop d5. So first eliminate the c3 knight. The plan is simple and clear. Knight into c3 followed by bishop d5, and the initiative of white is no more than. So he avoids exchanges. Now, fork. Of course, he could take here bishop into, but then bishop into check. Back again. Now you capture queen into f4, and bf6. Everything is fine. The end game is, I mean, the finish is very interesting. Now d6. White pins his hope on the d passer, but excellent move. Now d6 means rook into d7. Sorry, d7 means rook into d7. So if rook into c8 will bring the bishop and block that pawn. Lost. Now let us see. There is a more modern game here. No, no, no. But Doligi played that. So if white avoids a4, now a6 idea b5. White avoids a4, weakening the b4 point. Then b5 will come. And already the game is equal. Black has equal sir in the center. Unless white does something quickly, his pieces will be exchanged. The isolated pawn gives activity. Otherwise, that isolony will be a big burden in endgame. I don't see white is not yet ready for any activity. Preparing for knight e5 and knight f7 sacrifice. So dissolve, exchange as many pieces. The player playing against isolony should exchange as many pieces to steer the game towards endgame. Intermediary move. The idea now if you take knight into g5 with some hope of initiative on the king side. So if you play immediately queen b6 and d5, there are a lot of threats. Queen h5 is coming. If h6, knight into f7 will come. So queen into b6 is not a good move, but this intermediary move finishing the resources of white. Now if you play rook into bishop into now rook into you can play queen into b6. There is no time because rook will hang. If you play rook d4, queen b6, he cannot capture the g5 bishop. The point of that white's idea that he wants to get a tempo on the bishop and knight into e6, pawn into rook into. His idea now move the bishop, knight into e6. And if pawn into e6, rook into e6 winning. But a surprise is waiting for him. After knight into e6, you don't have to capture it with pawn. Simply bishop c8. The game is over. Design. White will be piece down for no compensation. Absolute no compensation. Lost. So the whole point is this intermediary move. For example, So after the move a6, a4, that you can play nc7, nc6, and try to come there to b4 square with good access, good activity. And if you play allow that move, pawn into, and now black has a good place. Of course, Sanko is blundered. For example, the position I would say still white is slightly better. This maybe here rook d1 and knight e5 is more to the point. White can prepare the setup. rd1, a3, knight e5. Why a3 means taking a square from the knight. I mean b4 square is controlled, so you can have bishop and queen better on the long diagonal. This is how the game could have made progressed. But unfortunately, it chose the wrong decision and thinking of planning the wrong side. This is not working out. Unfortunate for Samkovic. Okay, I move forward to the next game. The main line, Ninja Indian main line. Ninja Indian basically, White has two choice. He can play classical Queen C2 or E3, BD3, Knight F3 and Castle. This is the main line. BD3, C5. There are a lot of moves here. For example, he can play here, clear both the pawns, pawn into pawn, then p6 and b7. That is one point. And you can play nd7, trying to not to block the white diagonal, then play some exchange and b6. So I will discuss the model games. First, let us see the main. So this is okay. Now here Spassky went for immediate e5, which looks like equal because his last minor piece has to develop. So e5 clears the road for the white square bishop to go to g4. However, this is not the best one. Petrosian was well prepared. The more correct, the modern player, Benjamin played here b6. Okay, first let us see this game. Now bg4 is not coming because knight into and better game. He took the initiative now. Initiative. Not this ST c4, not this move because this is also possible. This is better. White has got better. Okay, let us see further. The idea that bishop he cannot take because the queen c5 check will pick up the piece. For example, queen c5 check immediately, you get no advantage. Immediately. So after the move, played bishop. Now black is getting ready. The position white is slightly better. Notice the a4 move he has designed to create activity on the queen side. Very well played. You cannot create a weakness with pawn a6. Then you will have problem on the b5. Running there, so trying to neutralize the diagonal. Preparing for pawn a5. Everything is safe. Now simply queen b2. S3 is a good move. It's a good move. Good move. The queen b2 is plus minus because you should not give unnecessary time. What Petrosian did in the game, when a player gets an advantage, he is not sure. It happens to great players. For example, this game, Petrosian played here Queen F2. This would have given some counter play. So Queen B2 directly was better, not the best move. Unnecessary move. Whereas Queen B2, he would have been terribly passive. After Queen B2, the game is just in white sand. Unnecessary move. Now he's free in return for the pawn some activity. Good move. He wants to enter Queen to E7. Here, here, there are a lot of moves. Here, better best move was to play rook, keeping the file in control. Now, suppose you play Queen Bishop to counterplay. So it is all possible because White gave a tempo at Queen F2 and Queen B2. That is why he should not have played that move. But now, instead of that move, he played, yeah, unfortunately, Rook C2. And there is no time. There is no time to play double the rook because Bishop to G3 and there is nothing. Simply black is paralyzed. The rooks have no activity and he will penetrate slowly now. Desperation. When the player is outplayed, now bishop has no good square. And if you play bishop g8, it is rook b7 is coming. So desperation. There are one or two spite checks only. Whole rook up. Now knight check. You should avoid that when you are in a winning position. You should see what are the opponent's tricks. So simple coming here. If knight d3, rook into d3. Mate. The threat of mate. And queen g2, knight f4, the exchange down endgame is hopeless. Resign. So let us see how black would have played this variation after the move, particular move here. Opening stage. E59. Instead of playing, there is other plan is to play ND7 also. King T7. We have got the identical position from the Petrosian's first game. Now instead of playing the E5, black poorly completes development connecting the rooks. The safest way. You don't have to play E5 and BG4 plan. Simple move. At least the game giving equal chances. Now white plan is to play E4 E5, running at H7, but no time. Now after E5 there is because there is a problem on the diagonal. I don't see any attack. Bishop check only. That's all. Now it is black who is having initiative. Position is minor, equal plus already. Black is better. So the simple move B6 and BB7 coordinating the pieces was necessary. And in another game, You don't have to play all the same plan. Black chose a different plan. In the game, Grandmaster Michael wrote into pawn into and knight d6. The idea is to play now b6 and bb7, keeping the diagonal open. Okay, if you play d5, you can play e5 as well. d5 can be met with e5. You will see the idea of rook b8. Now he is not in a hurry to play b6, bb7. We will see the idea of rb8. There is no easy plan. No easy plan. The idea that if you bishop exchange, knight d2 is coming. White seems to having a good coordinated position, but there comes threat. Wonderful. Active plan. After AB, neither bishop into b5 is possible, nor queen b5 is possible. Losing tactically. That is the idea of rb8. Now bb5 runs to bishop c6 or queen b5 runs to bishop f3. And black has grabbed the initiative. 2-1 majority and good control of center. Minus plus. There is no attack, nothing. The end game is coming and black is clear having upper hand. So this is a plan, but I think the other plan is more safer. Because white has played some queen to bad square and all unexpected b5 came. So he got into trouble. These are all not forced moves. White can have a better choice. So I would recommend that other line of black played. And let us say a game what Gary Kasparov did. Now in that line, he cleared the central pawn tension. c5. He just played pawn into. If you want the center, you have to play pawn into pawn. Knight into pawn is a passive approach. Pawn into, pawn into. Now the central pawn tension is clear. So b6. The simple plan. It's a b7 and seize the d5 square. In IQP position, the square in front of the pawn is important. The square in front of the pawn is important. It counts which player, white or black, having more control on that square. If white is developed and more control, he will advance that d pawn. If black has more control on that square, he will exchange pieces and blockade. We need to a standard plan with the idea he wants to play standard knight e5, a3, bishop to bring into a2 or b3, then bc2 and queen d3, bg5. The standard plan. Now the c3 pawn. So white should have played here knight to e5. Knight to e5. That is the right decision. But he played this mechanical move. Of course, because the calculation of Grandmaster Bagirov is after bf3, queen f3, rook on a8 is hanging. So he says that black cannot be exchanged down because the queen will threaten to come back. The a7 pawn also hanging. There is some miscalculation. Queen f3, queen into, queen into. All of a sudden, the queen is in trouble. Black is enjoying because on queen c4 cannot be attacked easily. There is no white square bishop, there is no knight. So black queen is sitting pretty at c4. That is why he is having all the fun. Now white queen cannot come out, controlling all the squares. A4, A5 is too slow. Tempo, tempo, the back rank. Because if you need to want to trap the queen, the back rank has to be clear. So, clearing the back rank with a aggression. Because if necessary, you can play h4, h3 also. Now, the queen counting, queen's end is coming, white queen. Now, no other square, unfortunately. Now, threatening to trap, rook 8. No way. Now, rook 8, anyway, queen is getting trapped. Trying to escape by queen b5. No, sorry, end of the game. The queen is lost. However, all this is not forced because he allowed, for example, this is all not forced. White could have played here knight e5 and the game is interesting. It is still black as a good game, but when he played here bishop c3, take. Now you don't have to play here bishop b2. You don't have to play. Knight e5 is okay. Black position is better, but it is not that black is winning. Instead of playing the bb2, allowing the bishop into f3, queen f3, and queen c4. Let's go to the next example I have selected. I have selected the old games because if you see the modern games, there is little to learn because the opening moves they are filtered and then they keep on working and find out how to equalize. So the mistakes are less in modern games. I mean, I'm talking of top class games, higher rated grandmasters. There are lesser number of mistakes. So you see classical old games that they used to punish the mistakes. Hello, Kamak Sivastu and Rath, good morning. How did continue after E5 in the Benjamin game? Did I show that game? How did the game continue after E5? In the Benjamin game. After the move B6, okay, you are asking instead of this move, you would like to say E5. Is it white or black? 22nd E5. All right, 22nd move E5. BF3, now E5. Okay, what else you will do? F5 is pointless, and pawn into pawn only playing into black's hand. So, you played queen b2, hovering around the squares, blockade. Anyway, the position, whether you play or not. Now the rook a1 is, there are a lot of weaknesses. A3, c3, then the squares are weak, d3, f3, and bishop in the wrong place. Weak king side and weak pawns and weak squares. Over. Okay. All right. Let me take you to now next game example. Next example is Petrosian and Spassky World Championship. The refinement attributes to Petrosian because exchange variation is not good here. Suppose white report I is to play pawn into pawn after nf6 and now for example knight c3, knight f6, pawn into pawn, bg5. That line is avoided. In my opinion, the position is only marginally better for white. Plus equal. That's all. A line, it was suggested by Victor Korchnoi that white is waiting, a fight for a tempo. White is says that now if you play pawn into pawn, bishop will go directly to c4, and if eventually e4, white stands better. This is the fight for a tempo. So black can also wait. For example, black can play here pawn to c6 or nd7, c6 and nd7. He can wait, but b6, not the best way. Not the best way. Here, the minority attack. Black would have played this Geller's suggestion bishop e6. If you find out Yusupov in his book, one of his best books, he has planned showed that b e6 with the idea when you prepare for c6, then b5 c5 you can play. The d5 pawn is well protected, so black can play c5. So b e6 was correct here. B e6 Geller's suggestion. Idea nd7, and then now whenever b5 comes, he can play c5. Is equality. But this was all analysis later on. The game was played way back in 1969. Here, played here, b7. Another idea, the b6 leaves the white squares blank there. b6, now c6, a6. So psychologically, he played this, but the bishop is poorly placed there. White has initiative. Now, the black cannot easily attack. The position comes reversed Caro-Kann exchange variation. The Caro-Kann exchange variation, normally white gets attack on the king side. But here it is not easy. The bishop on b7 is poorly placed. Suppose we change the piece configuration. Let us say the black bishop is on d6 and knight on f6, and the bishop is on somewhere g4 or d7. Black has an attacking position. If you make piece position changed, I mean it comes in Caro-Kann exchange variation reverse color. But unfortunately, black does not have so much time to regroup the pieces and go for it. White is already there for the initiative on the queen side. This is I cannot comment on this move because already he is coming quickly. A4, A5 takes. Excellent move. Now B5 is bad. Suppose you try to seal that line, he will play knight into pawn and bishop into D7 and the rook is hanging. So B5 unfortunately does not work. So you have to go back. But this gives time. Now he will double on the A5, B5 and then A4. The pressure. A4. The initiative of white pieces on the queen side, black is having powerless to regroup on the white's king side. Any question? What would black do if white plays f5? 23 f5. Okay. Let's see. Let's see. 23 f5. Oh, are you talking? Uh, Game 23 f5 in this game or Benjamin game? 23. Okay, here f5. Is this you are asking? I would not advise this move because already the problem I will tell you first. Now already white has got initiative on the queen side. So black is on the defense. Now, when you are defending, it is not advisable to create a fresh weakness because f5 there is no support of an attack. Imagine the pieces are ready, the knight is ready, so f5 f4 plan is not working. Is this you are asking here, or the Benjamin game? I'll go back. Benjamin game 23 f5. Benjamin game 23. Now he played queen e7, right? 23 f5. Okay. Instead of g3, now f5. This is not a good move. Why? The reason is releasing pressure from center. Now white has double bishop. So bishop become powerful when the game opens up. Suppose you release the tension, what is the scope of what is the plight of the bishop here? The bishop is looks like a big pawn to me. At least the pawn on f3 can move forward to f4, but it cannot. So it will be a move. There is no for example, you try to pawn storm is also not coming. F6 is not coming. So I would say that f5 hope of some initiative in future it is very very low because already black rooks are occupying the important file and is initiating hack action in a c4 square c3 pawn, so it will release the pressure from e5 freeing the knights. I hope you will agree with me. For example, what black can do here, i think I would play here knight to a5, knight to a5. Black looks better because after eventual knight exchange, the e4 will be a target. Eventually, he wants to exchange knight c4 and get rid of the knight. Then the e4 pawn becomes a very easy target for him. And you have to anyway play g3 to get rid of the pressure. So f5 is not advised. All right. Let's see. Go back to the game. I was discussing here. Good move. A4. Want to exchange that to get some relief from the attack. This move has strong and weak points. I mean, Korchnoi and Tal, they said it is a good move. According to Korchnoi Tal, this is a good move. But according to Geller and Boleslavsky, this is a dubious move. The idea is not attack. The idea is prophylactic. He is now provoking h5, then g5 square is weak. Here, it was interesting. Probably Bondarovsky and Geller. There is no immediate follow-up, but inviting a camel in the tent is bad. Not a very good idea. You have to again struggle. For example, double the rook, bring the queen to d3 and then f1 or e2 by f1. So that is the drawback of h4. But anyway, here he played h5. So now again white looks much stronger. Now queen e6 can be met with king g2. All set. He has taken all the prophylactic measures. Now he will return to the b5. for activity. Good move. Petrosian always has a far-sighted vision about his piece position and about the weaknesses of the opponent. Now you will see the point of Queen D1 later. Great move. For example, in the first side, what is Queen D1 doing? You say, what Queen D1 is doing here? You will see the reason soon. Focusing on the C3, C6 weakness. So, this is a bad move. Now, the logic is maybe Spassky thought these two rooks are piled up. My knight, I will just defend, then rook will come back to e7. It is based on a method of playing, not concrete calculation. Now, after knight b8, the position is plus minus. Initiative. White grabs the initiative. That's why I put in training mode. Think and tell me what should you do. Now, the point how to take advantage. The position is plus minus. Knight b8 trying to release the pressure, then freeing the rook. Now knight b8 bad. What should we do? The point of queen d1 reveals now. The knight has left the center. So knight e2. Now white wants to go after the black king position. The knight, Makagano theory, you can say. The knight is now doing nothing at the moment other than defending his weak pawn. But now, knight e2. Suddenly the knight goes to a lucrative square, knight f4. And rook f4 is impossible. Means possible but bad. After rook f4, rook into c6. Winning immediately. Over. This is the point of queen d1. Now white has grabbed the initiative. Since black cannot take the a4 pawn, now knight f4 is coming, which we cannot dislodge it. You cannot come bishop h6 and take it. That would be very bad, weakening the king. And that knight is passive. Knight f4, knight e5. It's just crushing. Fantastic move. Now, 1 to free. Queen d3. Back. Plus minus. Terrific position. The Russian knight has entered. Knight e5. I don't think the position is defendable anymore. There is too much pressure on c6. And the rook on a6 is very passive. And the black's king side is also weak. Idea queen c2. Idea pile up. Alekhine type. Now I think this is a dubious move. Maybe it's a simple queen c2. The position is not defendable. After the move, knight into c6. This is also forced, forced. Queen b5, knight b8, and the rook and queen penetrate. Queen check, rook, queen e8 check, and rook c8, attacking the knight and mate. Now rook a8 has to go. Whatever you do, queen e8 check, lost. And queen e8 and winning easily. So that was winning knight into. So when there was clear cut win, maybe he was hoping for some mating attack. or the threat was on ND5. So it is not the best way. Here, knight into C6 was still winning and won the game eventually. But what I liked is now with the Queen D1, he was preparing to grab the initiative. Next, how to play this position? I will discuss the opening. For example, I criticize the move here, B6, here, opening. Here, this move, Queen D2. I criticize this move. How to handle this position? For example, I like the style of Portis. Very solid player, strategically perfect. So his preparation of Queen's Gambit was par excellence, especially against Bent Larson in the match. His preparation was fantastic. So that helped him also to play in other tournaments with good result. So here, this is a simple way. Instead of playing B6, the idea is knight D7 and knight B6. Now knight B6 with counterplay. Pawn into pawn is bad. Now pawn into pawn is bad because the D5 square after pawn takes pawn and B6 and the D5 square. Then B6, BD7, BC6. Grab pawn into is bad. Simple solution. Exchanging, I just know if you exchange pieces, queen, rook into, you get nothing. After taking, that knight has to retreat from e4, and white black stands actively there. So, played ND6, simply threatening to pin. Excellent solution. Cannot avoid queen exchange and won the game. But anyway, the position here, instead of playing now, black has got other alternative also. There is that move bc4 and d7. Now black has other alternative. Instead of going like this way, black can play. This is a very solid way. I recommend black has no problem in this type of position. So queen d2 is not a serious, problem for black players. Let us see other game. A more modern game. You played in 2016. The point now the game takes a very sharp character. Bishop and knight and pawn b5. Give the wing pawn and take the center pawn. I would say that I will not advise players to play in this manner if they have not worked it out because there are a lot of surprises can come. Now the plan is to play 4 f5. All this very artificial play. This is very artificial way he is playing white. If you will play some bishop into, then queen into is excellent position. Bishop into e6, queen into e7. good position. So he gives check and takes it, but it is bad. Unnecessary asking for trouble. So this is not the way that a white player should play. However, I recommend, though the position looks interesting, give the wing pawn and take the center pawn here. After this move, idea here, take this takes. This is not, I mean, very scientific way. I like, for this preparation is excellent, very solid, scientific. Take and NB6 and we do some solving all the problem. Okay, now I'll go to the next game I selected. Petrosian Spassky. I like this game. The way Petrosian conducted, the art of initiative. So this is the more now. There are two type of in the King's Indian classical. Black can prepare to play here. I mean, knight can be placed on d7 and e5. He can try to play this sort of piece then e5. But more modern approach is to play idea a6, rook b8 and b5. Generating play. Before playing b5, you must go away from the diagonal. The white bishop is very strong in the diagonal. So he prepare a6, rb8 and b5. But there is an interesting idea. Preparing rb8. Now if immediate d5, knight goes to a5, gaining time. Now after d5, knight a5, the pawn is attacked. So knight d2. Then white prepares rook b1, then b3 or a3 b4. But in this case, now b4 is a threat. Black will play c5, and black is in the game. But let us say a small twist we give. We give a small twist. Instead of now playing d5, when you play this is coming. How about a move like bishop d2? Bishop d2. We are doing two bars in one shot. See, always that bishop is in the line. When you play some d5 and the diagonal opens up, so you have to halt for rook b. Now, if you now the point is any moment now rook b1, b4, b5 coming and knight a5 is bad now. Knight a5 is bad because knight will be very funnily placed. After the move knight a5, b3, you don't have c5. Then there is a lot of problem. So this is an interesting idea. Bishop d2 attributes to Vladimir Tukmakov, who is a very good trainer. He has been the trainer of Ukrainian women team for a very long time. Vladimir Tukmakov. So interesting idea. But here, did I overwrite it? No. So here d5, d5. Now c5 is compulsory because b6, b4, knight b7 is just miserable. Now the knight is under threat. Now b6, b4, knight b7, simply rook b1, and the knight is doomed to passivity for life. Only move. There is alternative is now you rook b1, b3, a3, and b4. But this is okay, not bad. So it is okay now. Black is trying to get activity on the king side. This is justified. But what black is missing, the other knight. For example, imagine the other knight is on e7. Then black's activity is really dangerous against white king. So what he is missing is a badly placed Taras formula. Good move. Go away. The knight e1, there is nothing you can do. E3 is controlled. Now what has happened is the black's king side has become very weak. There is lot of weak squares, open lines, and there is a vacuum. The knight on a5 is very poorly placed. How many weaknesses? Apart from the knight on a5, e6 square is weak, f5 pawn is weak, f4 square is weak, h6, the king, whole king position. But you may ask, so what? How can white attack? Very, very instructive. So, desperately opens up. Now, rook a7, rook g7 was called for. Even then, white is better. Now, after this move, preparing rook g7, but this will give time too. It's not easy. For example, suppose you do, now how I will continue? I will play some move like knight to e3, knight g2, and knight f4. The plan is to play knight e3, knight g2, knight f4. So here he plays direct attacking. Now Petrosian played very instructively. He has already got a center and also activity. Ignore that. A far-sighted move. The point is now after bishop into the bishop will come by h3 to the e6 rook. So not this rook. Bishop e6 is entering now. Two exchange sacrifice. Anthony and again Anthony. And now unfortunately king cannot move. There is nothing. You could have played rook double here, but knight is coming with a mate threat. Knight is threatening a mate which he cannot parry. Deadly. Knight h6 is a mate now. So he cannot parry. Rook a7 does not work. The only move. Now there is no time to play queen into knight. After queen takes knight, bishop into check and queen h8 check. Knight f5 check. There is a series of checks. After queen into check, check. Now check, king into. But then queen check and winning the queen. And if he comes here, if he comes to e7, check, another check, or whatever you do, this another check, another check. How many checks? Lost. So he can't do anything. He cannot play. He cannot take the knight. Now he plays this. And a combination. Beautiful combination. Check, check, and third check picks up the queen. A beautiful game. The white's initiative on the black king's weekend position was exemplary. What black made mistake? The knight on a5 never saw the daylight again. Died in the dark. Here, here, I would say that the first exchange sacrifice was interesting. I like the second exchange sacrifice. Okay, the next one. Next one. Petrosian's Tusky. Last game of the Petrosian's Tusky example. Another discussion of Nimzo Indian defense. So this is a very solid line. Necessary. White is preparing simply a strong center with E4. So black is putting pressure on D4. So E4 he will take it. A3. The idea is to save the bishop. Now after a pawn into pawn, you will run away with the bishop. The position white is better. Always we should see we take initiative against the weakened pawn structure, weakened king position. Now the target is A7 pawn. You can see that bishop on E2, pawn on B5, and the open file, half open file rook. The A7 pawn can never come. He cannot play A5 or A6. So the backward pawn is the key. So white all activity, his initiative should be directed against that weakness. Now, welcome to play the endgame. Endgame is cheerless because simply you will double on the A line. Now, he reveals the plan. A great move. Normally, when you give this position to an average player, he will think of mobilizing the king side for an attack. But when you play any sort of thing, the two knights and black bishop on b7 get active. If you try to expand on the inside pawn storm, there is no other easy plan. Then black will get some counter. You may bring the knight to e3. You may bring try or prepare further prophylactic moves, but black will get counter play. So the right move, the structure is so strong. Bishop b7 has no scope. So when you get the gold, why go for tamba? So simple, only one way. That only white will have activity and black has to watch. Or black has to take heavy risk to open the position. Well played. The idea is to connect the rooks. Well done. The position is very difficult. Now there are rook on a8 remains there, and rook must be protected. Otherwise, BB6 will come anytime. That means the rook on d8 is also passive. The rook d8 is passive, rook a8 is passive, and the bishop on b7 is biting granite in the diagonal. कुछ भी नहीं है उसके लिए. You can't criticize. Now, how long you will play? So he is trying to overprotect the pawn. But otherwise, I think giving the pawn also there is no counter play available. You cannot generate any activity. So it defends passively. The idea now he wants to bring knight e2 and knight d4 with more pressure. So black cannot wait. After ne2 and nd4, you cannot dislodge that knight. So it tries to soften the diagonal and creating weaknesses. Very well, no f4. I tell you, it is not easy. Making attack becomes much easier many times because you get clear cut ideas. But defending a position is more hard. Defending a position, you have to see which piece to exchange, which square to cover, and do not create fresh weaknesses. Now, black has created fresh weaknesses trying to do some activity. Now, now this is also preparing idea s4 s5. Now rook is on s line, so s4 s5 is creating a serious concern. So he goes for queen exchange, but it is cheerless. A first more weakness. Now, for example, If you allow h4, then if you can't play h5, bg5 will come. After h4, suppose you try to stop, then bishop g5 is lethal. So, idea knight b6. A desperate man can come to do anything. So, boom, into rook is attacked, and after rook into take check, finish. It's all over. The king f6 runs to a pin, or the king e5 also king e7 also lost. Check. Two bishop against rook. And there is no pass pawn. Suppose there was some pass pawn, there would have been some home. So it is hopeless position. You can take that pawn, you can do anything. Lost. An excellent game. The understanding of Petrosian initiating action against the backward a7 was the key. Okay. Petrosian's first games are over. Now I will go back to 1948 when Alekhine died. The International Chess Federation, FIDE, they decided that we will invite all the strong players the, from various parts of the world, make a tournament, and winner will come become declared champion. At the end, Botvinnik was declared champion, and there are many interesting battles. It is if you leave the opening part, the middle game was really great. Of course, there were a lot of opening errors. The evolution of opening was yet to come, but the middle game were very interesting. Taking initiative against him. For example, let us say starting with U carrot, U versus carrots. Now direct d4 is not good. It is an elementary trap. If you play direct d4, it is an elementary trap. I mean b5, bb3, knight into take, pawn into, now queen into pawn, c5, and tempo, but then tempo and picks up a piece. One piece. Of course, white can avoid all these things. White can here, after pawn into, need not take, white can offer a pawn gambit for activity. Now pawn into pawn and knight into pawn. Well, it is they're just starting. Though white position looks active, pawn is a pawn. So I would not advise that you give a pawn with the hope of some initiative on the king side. So better to avoid the variation. So here c3, d4 directly is not the best way. D4. Now all these things are not advisable because way back in 1948, so a system that I will play slowly. Now does modern grandmaster will punish such play. So the threat is knight g5. Plus sir, with the idea he wants to play here d into e. White looks okay now. Now it is necessary for black to play pawn into. It is necessary not to play pawn into because after pawn into he will play bishop e3 then pawn c5. Stop the bishop going to d4. After pawn into c6 The pawn into c6, bishop e3, then c5. When bishop into pawn fails to queen g5, might threaten the bishop. So when you cannot take, then next move bishop c6 or bb5. It is it is better that he should have played pawn into, but he played here bishop into, which is not good. I think white is better already now. White position is better, not the best way. Of course, there are other moves, but you are unable to advance. So I think it is not good move when you cannot really take initiative. So he took advantage of this. Okay, you won. It is not necessary. It was better to play c4 with a grip on the center. The position is plus minus. Pair of bishops, center. I would say that is the drawback of bishop into c6. Now the position is plus minus. But instead of that, he played the general that bring the pieces to center. It is not based on concrete calculation. Now, black takes the initiative, or rather equal. The whole point is now he can play go away queen from the rook line, queen d7. Now d5 is coming. One of the main idea, the devil is bishop. The devil is bishop he will exchange. And eventual d5 break also. So rook e1 is the move. He threw away the advantage. After queen d7, I would say the advantage is neutralized. White is still okay, equal. But no more advantage. Now, too late. This is too late now. Defending for f6 neutralizes. Well, this is he is now trying to acute. Many times player very unhappy. Suppose a player has an advantage and opponent neutralizes. He is not happy. He is trying to force the matter because in his mind already he was looking for a win. So he will try to psychologically he will try to force the matter. Not good. Still, White can hang on with just maintaining the form. That's all. No need to do any weakening, but bad move. Now b3. Now queen should not take the pawn and stay there badly placed. So come back. This should be all equal. But the psychology. Now he cannot digest the fact the advantage is gone. So he plays her. Not a correct. You can't play f5. That is bad. Excellent understanding. That is why I say if you leave the opening part, the old games are really gems. Now you can weakening. If you take pawn into pawn, then the center is very weak a5. And if you do any other thing, counterplay. So queen d3. Now the d5 point is weak. So black grabs the initiative. Okay. Here, Keras was a great player. He was master of one open games and also master of attack. Now suddenly he finds a great attacking plan against the white king and takes the initiative on the king side. Great move. White a passer is useless. Already his king is in trouble. Another great move. Now queen into e4 will run to queen e2. Queen e4 will lose to queen e2. You lose a piece. Queen e4 unplayable. And now, however, rook e1 is also bad. Rook e1 will enter knight h4. Now, rook e1 f5. Okay, I'm F5 is more stronger, safer way. F5. And if you play here Queen C1, Knight H4. Hopeless position. Because Queen C2 is not coming and Rook F2 is not coming. RD1 lost. And G3 is losing to Knight check. So you can't play. Rook E3, Rook D3 is finishing. Great move. If Queen now, at least he need not grab. But can anybody resist the move? Queen into pawn check, I am supporting and I can maintain the diagonal. Now, Keras was very tricky. Now, he allowed Queen takes pawn to defend. Here, it was better to play here, Queen C2 direct. Of course, even at now also, White is better. After this move, pawn F5, White will consolidate slowly initiate. Still, very strong position. But check, tempting check. Made threat, so run away. Now, Keras reveals the plan of his C6. Unbelievable. Forced. The point, the pawn is given because at the moment you cannot play RD2. Queen and knight to attack. He has two. You can't bring the third force. The rook must reach seventh rank or white second rank. So this way he gains a tempo. First take a tempo. Now rook c2 is coming. Now if he immediately rook c2, bd2 is there. He will, though it is bad, he will survive. Now immediate rook c2 also winning but little more time. bd2 will come. So rook c5. You have to maintain the diagonal. That means you leave the control of d2. Go somewhere. Or queen goes. Then rook c2 is overwhelming. So once rook into loses the knight for and queen into is a mate. Over. Even supposing here, instead of here this, now rook c2 also would have won. But this is, isn't it pretty? Isn't it pretty? Even this would have also slowly won. After this move, this is also slowly. Hello, just Kharagpur, welcome. Good morning, Nekavani Srinivas Reddy. Okay, uh, thank you, Subankar. Ars, I've selected the games and tomorrow I'll see some more Petrosian because the time is not enough. It is already 11. So I will finish the remaining games and we will work on some Petrosian games later in the coming sessions. Great game by Paul Carres. Okay, for example, how you could have played that? I mean, white. See, I will tell you, Resaski. So the Semislav. I saw a game of Olympiad that white did all this with knight on g1. That is very interesting idea. I guess it was so Wesley. Very interesting idea. But this is standard Austrian VV4. Not a good move. The right approach that he should play bishop to c7, just castle bc7 and prepare to strike on the center. I also one game on that. Not correct. Better was to play Castle and bishop b4 means bc7. Bad move. Not it is not advisable to open the game. So white is eager because the c8 bishop has no good diagonal. So eager to open the line, but pays the penalty. Not good. So white grabbed the initiative. Grab. Pawn into pawn is not correct. After knight into bishop a5 will come. Initiative. The art of grabbing initiative. Fantastic. Now taking the pawn, he's counting on the bishop a5 is unprotected. After queen takes pawn, he can play knight b5, attacking the bishop and attacking the queen, which will give problems. So with the move, Rashevsky grabbed the initiative. Plus minus. Central pass pawn on the sixth rank. The e5 pawn under pressure. The pieces are underdeveloped. You have to protect e5 before moving the knight. So he desperately pushes it. Threat f7, e4, h7, all. This is ruled out completely. Non-question. Very nicely played. Sami gunning at h7. It's all over. It is time now. Central pass pawn. The king side is weak. It is not possible to defend the position anymore. Finish, finish. Thematic. Fianchetto weak king position. Fianchetto there is no bishop. H5 h6 will crush him. Okay. So here you don't have to. But what I showed you that finding such moves, finding such moves. D6 after the move. D6. Wonderful. Bolt from the blue. Suddenly, black finds himself in a miserable situation. Okay. Now, now let me take you to the right decision. How you could have played not Queen e7, not this move Queen e7. Very poor move after the Queen c2. Okay. How you could have played here? All right. I think the position I will find it. Uh, okay, I will find that line. Bishop c7 was better. He should castle bc7 and try to strike. The queen on e7, wasting time. Let me complete. Who is the next one? It is Botvinnik Keras. Another lovely, lovely game. An excellent example of initiative. The variation lost popularity. Here, black can play c5. It's a good move. Black can play c5, trying to play with double against double pawns when knights are having better opportunity. Black can also play nc6 with the idea of e5. Knight c6 is a possibility with the idea of e5. But c5 is more scientific. Then he can circle around that c4 weakness. After c4, b6, nc6, bishop a6. What I mean to say, c4. Now bishop d3. This is the how it is played. Now nc6, b6. Now knight e2 because keeping the pawn free. Then knight to c6. Planning planning to play bishop to a6 and knight f5. And even this is in the air. This is in the air. Sorry, this is in the air. Rook c8 is there. So he can go around that pawn, but you have to watchful about white's initiative on the king side. So this would be the right way to play. But here he plays rook e8. It has also his own objective. So white takes a very cautious approach. Not the best way. This is, you see, nowadays we know that this is terrible for black. Black should underdevelop. It should not open the game. When opponent, there is a rule, unwritten rule. When opponent has two bishops, don't open the game. You are opening the game for the bishop pair. Even white will not mind being a pawn down to get good diagonal for his bishops. So it is a wrong thing. Nice. Now against mechanically pawn into pawn, d5 and c4 is okay. But this fantastic move. Now there is a grip. The d pawn is weak. The diagonal black square. The diagonal on a1 to h8 will be terrible. No d5 plus minus. Now after the advantage, white will open up. The initiative will extend with pawn c5 break, which we cannot stop. Rook c8 and rook d1. So forced, and it is all over. But nobody expects the game will be over immediately within few moves. White initiative is so strong, but black cannot survive now. Whatever you do, it is lost. Good move. Normally, a player will not be willing to move the bishop from the long diagonal. But right move. Fantastic move. Comes with a deadly threat. Queen into f6. Only move. Would you believe the game is over fast in 3-4 moves? Check. Check. You can't go down for the exchange, the bad king position and one pawn check. Only move. But then queen e3. Seals the fate of black. There are two mate threats on g5 and h6. You can see it is the c5 break. I remember I took the initiative against Lars Carlson, grandmaster from Sweden, with that c5 break against his uncoordinated pieces, accelerated dragon, Margimai. Hello, Divyasri, lost, unstoppable. He gives mate on h6 or g5. You can control only one square at a time. Now, lethal. After rook into c5, the initiative is so powerful. You versus Keres. I already told that d4 move is not advisable. So c3. The idea d4. But then you have to count on the siesta variation. Now black goes for the siesta variation. Basically, modern theory says this is dubious. But the great Fisher came into trouble against this. I think It was Mantanovic or Matlovic. Mantanovic was white and Fischer was no. Mantanovic was black and Fischer was white. He was already in trouble in some interzonal. In some after 12 moves. After pawn into bishop into castle, bishop d3, choking white. After pawn into pawn, bishop into pawn, castle, bishop d3. But modern theory rejects all this. And if you play now, for example, if you play d4, pawn into pawn, knight into. The correct move was played by Fabian Caruana against Adivan. I will show that game. Now, this is complicated. He is temporarily giving material. Check. Pawn g6 is bad because queen into check and queen into c. Only move. Check. First I capture that. Now queen e5 is bad. After queen e5, king f7, he will escape. Only one queen. There is no white square bishop, no knight. So queen e5 check is bad. So bishop check. Pawn into. It appears white is winning, but queen d5. Resourceful play. The point is now pawn into f6, g into f6, and black will get the piece back with better game. Black will get the piece back with better game. So idea pawn into check, but then another beautiful move. You cannot take pawn into check. Now queen is white queen is hanging, so pawn into f6 is not possible. But then comes queen. Idea you move the knight, d8 is a mate. So in this tactical melee, black comes out. Go away from the mating net. You leave the d8 square. Check, check, and after the move, take, and pawn into. But this is not a position that white can count on for. This is not a position that white can look because he is not fully developed yet, and the material is equal. Black has bits of pair, so I don't see any kind of problem. That is the reason. So here, the whole point is the opening here. No, after the move d4, pawn into. You should not play knight into pawn. Simple. Fabiana Caruana played this move. I will discuss another game. Now let us go to the main line. ef5. ef5. The players, if you castle here, bishop d3. Now rook e1, rook. This is bad. Now rook g3 is bad because of bishop h4. And after rook h3, he can have compensation for that. Take. How many moves the rook has come to e1, e3, s3, take, and still you have to move. By that time you open up, he will castle and play rook queen e7, rook e8. Now, if you play rook releasing to play d4, queen e7, and d4 is met by now d4 is met by rook a8. Trouble is started. So knight a3. This is so passive. Black has got very active play. So but however, the whole line is not the best. For example, okay, uh, this is Fisher and Matano again. I will not show. And here ef5, played d4, not allowing the blockade. So he goes for knight. Excellent move. The point is now, if you take pawn into pawn, white is happy. He will come back. And now bishop into e3 is not working because of h6. Suddenly the knight does not have a good retreat. After bishop into e3, h6, knight s3, there is a fracture in the pawn structure, a ruined pawn structure. After bishop into e3, black has initiative because this is terrible pawn structure and also is underdeveloped. Black strengths better. So you can't do this. You cannot play bishop into pawn. e3, good move by Paula. Want to now come back knight s3. If h3, h6, knight can retreat. Now b3, you have got queen e7 and now knight f6. White black is very active position. So it still does not take and after the move queen f3 check. Now the e4 square is weak. The bishop on c1 is very passively placed. This is not a good position for white. Threat after threat. Because now white looks okay because he is going to consolidate the position. Next move, he will play knight to d5 to f3 and come dump it on e5. Everything looks under control. But he was completely shattered after bishop into, not giving him time to consolidate. The attack plays itself. Whatever he will do is in trouble. Now, if you play queen e5, knight e2 check is winning. Queen e5, knight check, and that f queen f2 series. Knight f3, knight check, and now f6. Lost. Whatever do it is lost. Finished the game. So the initiative is too strong. Underdeveloped white pieces, and now four black pieces are so active. Okay. I think this is resigned. I think. e4 finish. Rook f1 is not coming. g4 is coming. So over. Did I keep any game for this? I think I might have kept. 74. See that Caruana Adi one game. Caruana and Adi one game. So here comes the siesta variation. F5. Now not knight into e5, which ended up equality. Knight, but ng5. The pin does not work. Simply castle because rook e1 will come. Queen e7 does not work. And offering a pawn, but too much development, lacking in center. You cannot accept a pawn. If you play b5, that will be worse. Weakening further. Pawn into pawn, knight c3, just plus minus. So, trying to castle quickly. Still, you cannot go for the pawn. Not giving time. The plan is bg4, bs3, not giving time. M tempo. So, no more initiative of black on the white king. And the position is now in favor of white. Preparing rook fba to trap the queen. Defend. Lost. So the ng5 was more correct move instead of that bad move pawn into f5. I would say modern player, they play NG5. Yes, the variation. Stop. I guess one more game. Uh, what will he give? Yeah, two, three games more. Three games more. So Semislav, idea bishop b7 and pawn to c5. Getting counterplay. If white is not playing aggressively, suppose you castle bb5 will bishop b7 and then next c5. So immediate action, not giving time. If bb7 there is no time, ul5 is coming. So good or bad he plays. Now why allow the pawn come knight into b5? There has been some improvement in the line. I have to check the modern theory. I have not checked, but I am sure I read somewhere a very decisive improvement for white. So here pawn into. Now if you play pawn into pawn, then the position is unclear. BB5 will play. No, BB5 I can't play. Castle, the position remains unclear. Because anyway, d pawn and the king in center. So here he plays queen. Now the problem is for black, he has to castle, and in the absence of the black square bishop, the king will be in serious trouble. If the bishop is not there, and which you cannot avoid. After white castles, some bishop f4, bg5, queen d2, you cannot stop that. Or you have to weaken the position further. That would be ugly. And once the bishop is gone, the king cannot be safe in the such a weak castle position. So this is unwilling to castle. He played knight c5. Want to get rid of some important attacking pieces. Hello? Can I call? I'm in a class. Can I call you after some 10-15 minutes? So, yeah, Rook. He is not willing to castle. Now, want to exchange the dark square logically. Looks like black has solved the problem because the number of pieces are reduced. So, there is no attacking chances. The white's attacking potential is not looking good now because there are only very limited pieces. The rook has no access in the c line. c8, c7, c6, all these are under control. And now knight has to retreat. But here, Botu actually judges the situation correctly and takes the initiative against the black. Very right judgment. He refuses to retreat the knight. If you retreat the knight, there is nothing left now. It is equal. So, fantastic move. Queen g3. Go ahead and take the knight. The onslaught, that because the tempo, Queen g7, then rook c7, when the bishop is attacked and so many mate threats. Forced. There is nothing better you can do. Nothing. Enter, only move. Enter. I think the end of the game. But I will go to the end because the ending is interesting. Now there is to avoid the mate. Queen and rook only move. Because bishop is falling. Other moves like queen d6. This is no fun. There is rook a7 and then you cannot defend. So queen into rook only takes. Now, despite the deficit of what is black plays really great. Ignoring now the all black needs Rook behind the pass pawn. Very well played. Now if you take pawn into, that is bad. Pawn into, he will play rook to d7. That check is of no use. The two connecting pawns. So he is bringing the king. Very well played. Very well played by white. Botwini. Blockade. Now the king will replace the blockade. Very soon, the king f2, king e1 or king d, king e, then he will defend. Queen removes and king takes the queen's square, blocking the pawn and winning the king. The point is, after pawn c3, queen c3, d2, queen check and queen into rook check and king e2, winning. King pawn ending. c3 does not work. c3 does not work. Take, d2 check, check, king. So you cannot do that. So you cannot do king. But now no time to play for c3. Once again, queen c3 and queen d2. No time. So blockade is complete. A4, a5, a6 is finished. Nice game. Initiative against king. It is exam because it is a very instructive that he recognized that very easily. Of course, this is not a long variation. Ignoring the knight and entering party finish. Finish. Okay. I don't think I have time here. I will remain in two games. We have left two games now. It is Keres and you. Two games. I don't think I can because I don't want to rush because the opening needs detailed analysis and explanation. So I will not rush. You Keres and you Keres you. Two games. One is Spanish Open and one is Names of Indian Defense. I'll cover up tomorrow and I will add some Petrosian's games and some more games from the 1948 World Championship. Interesting battles. Basically, initiative, it is a player can take initiative in the opening stage itself, but that is rare. Grabbing initiative at the opening stage, for example, Petrosian Fischer game. He grabbed the initiative as early as move 4-5, and there is a game Kasparov grabbed initiative against Ponomarev. So there is no time that middle game initiative can be taken even opening stage if there is an error, and in end game initiative is more dangerous because sometimes we have hope to survive a playable bad ending, survive there. But if end game initiative, there is no survival. So I will discuss more at length on various positions, opening initiative, middle game initiative, and initiative in the end game. So thank you very much, friends, being with me, and I will be back tomorrow at 9:30. And I'm planning to make two sessions very soon, and depend because the 9:30 session very few people can attend. They only can see the recorded version because of the school. So I will make two sessions, and we can have more examples. So thank you very much. And tomorrow onwards, I will try to make 9:30 to 1:30 and 3:30 to 3 to 5. 3 to 5 or 2 to 4, which is better to play 3 to 5. 9:30 to 1:30 and 3 to 5. We'll keep two sessions from tomorrow. So take care, everybody, and bye. Question is, in order to get an outpost, is it worth to give an exchange sacrifice? Provided your initiative is there. Divyasri, the question is very good. You can give an exchange sacrifice to put your rook or knight and outpost, provided the further course of the game you have the initiative. Like boat winning against Khan. Ilya Khan was white and Botu was black. Ilya Khan or I think somebody. The rook on c3. He dumped the rook against the bishop. I have shown the example. So you can give the exchange sacrifice to put a outpost, take outpost, but the initiative must be there. Okay, see you tomorrow. Tomorrow, 9:30 to 1:30 and 3 to 5.